From the top.
From the top.
Let's go.
Welcome to 6-Minute Increments, where we explore the business and legal side. Today, we are fortunate to be joined by one of our young attorneys in our office. Radhika, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how did you get here to Rochester, New York?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me. I am a second-year attorney now, not originally from Rochester. I work at Pullano Farrow, and I do personal and commercial litigation. So the personal side would be personal injury, wrongful death, estate litigation, and the commercial litigation is pretty much everything else, business disputes, insurance defense, commercial in terms of a little bit of labor and employment, but also construction law. And I am originally from Toronto, so I went to law school in Dayton, Ohio. And
You're bouncing around a little there.
I am,
Toronto
yes.
to Ohio to Rochester.
I'm a woman of the world. What can I say?
Yes.
All around Lake Ontario. You're keeping
Yes.
it there.
Yep, that's the one focal point. I never stir too far from the lake.
Right.
But and I knew I wanted to be somewhere closer to my family, but also practice in the States. And so that's why I ended up in Rochester.
Do you like Rochester? Be honest.
I do, actually. It's surprising. Initially, I thought I wouldn't because I come from a very large city. I'm used to people everywhere, lights. And when I first moved, it was a little bit shocking for me because the one thing I noticed, there aren't that many streetlights. And so that would make me a little bit nervous. But now when I actually go back home, I get anxious because of all the cars and like lights everywhere. I'm like, what? I'm like, it's so wasteful. We actually don't need all these lights. But so I actually do enjoy it now.
Are unique in that regard. None of us are actually from here. We all have.
Right. It's our chosen home.
It's our chosen home. I like that. What in the world made you get into practicing law?
So I wish I had like one, point in my life where I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. But I think for me, it's just that seed was planted by my dad many, many years ago. And I was just always fascinated by attorneys and maybe I was a little bit misguided because I saw Suits.
For me, it was Ally McBeal. They lie, don't they?
I mean, and actually, they shot
You believe the
Suits
TV
in
show.
Toronto. We did. They shot Suits in Toronto, and I saw them shooting at one time. And I remember I was in college, and I remember being like, "Oh my God, Harvey Specter!" But no, that's not the only reason I went to law school. I just knew that I wanted to do something more with the opportunities that were given to me, and I thought, going to law school was something that I could do if I worked hard. And so I went to undergrad for accounting and finance because I didn't know any lawyers and I wasn't sure if I would get into law school. So I wanted to have like a good backup and I thought I could maybe be a CPA if I, don't get into law school.
So odd because a lot of lawyers, and I'll include myself, go into law so you don't have to do math. You can do math. And yet you went to law school.
Yeah, so I can do math, but we had this discussion yesterday. I can do math, but I'm always doubting myself when it comes to math because I grew up with people around me that could do math like on their fingertips, like pull numbers out of air and could just do it. And I was always like, but I need a paper and pencil. Like, what am I going to do? Right. So I can do math. I'm better at most attorneys when it comes to math. I can understand it better. So in that context, yes, I can do math.
This is the key I pointed out yesterday. It's about context, isn't it? See, Beth is being honest that numbers, bad. So, one of the purposes of this show was also to help humanize lawyers. Like, you're a person. What do you think that clients should know about working with you or what you've learned about dealing with clients? I mean, this is kind of a service industry. Where do you fall and what your relationship is with your clients? And what do you think they should know about you to maybe make that a smoother working relationship?
Yeah, I think what's important for, clients to know for all attorneys is we don't know the answer to everything. And I think that's okay. We have so many legal resources. We don't. Contrary to popular belief, we don't. But yeah, we have so many legal resources available. And, we should be granted the opportunity to look up an answer to something if we don't actually know it off the top of our heads. And I think that actually benefits the client because, would you rather we give them limited knowledge that we probably just heard from a couple of other people and, mess up their case, or do you want us to look into the matter so we can actually give you proper legal advice and the best course of action for your scenario?
Yeah, that's a good point. In law school, what did they actually teach you to do?
Just to pass the bar exam.
Pass the bar, look stuff up. I
Yes.
mean, in a way, you went to school for 3 years to basically hone research skills.
Yes,
And then clients think research shouldn't be involved.
exactly.
But I think that in your career starting out, I think, have you yet had where there has been a change in the law that you have been impacted by from even when you were in law school? If not, give it time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I personally haven't dealt with that situation
Okay.
yet, but you are correct. I will give it time because the law is constantly changing. So, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a time where, I was used to practicing a certain way because I knew the law and then it just changed all of a sudden and I have to go back and redo some of the research that I had done previously.
Why litigation?
That was going to be my question.
I stole it.
Yep. That's fine.
I actually never thought that I was going to be a litigator. Growing up, I didn't see a lot of litigators that looked like me. So I just always believed that transactional law was what I was going to do until
We'll take you.
I wish that maybe I did a little bit more of it, but I think very early on when I was interning, I realized that I don't like to do the transactional side of the law.
Why?
And I wanted to, I
Sounded like begging.
I think it was more so I liked the thrill of like going to a courtroom and possibly not knowing what's going to happen and being, able to think on my feet. I liked the excuse of getting out of the office once in a while to, for a court conference or make an appearance or for a deposition. And I have been put into situations where I've gone to defend a deposition and I thought that I wouldn't, and I was told you don't have to do anything. And I sat there and I had to do stuff because I realized that, what the other attorney was asking was definitely not going to be helping our case. And so I had to ask my client questions to make sure that their case was presented fairly. So I like those challenges and those opportunities. And I think litigation is best suited for something like that.
What has been the biggest eye opener as you've gone from student to practitioner? What's been the most difficult challenge, I guess, for you to get accustomed to?
Oh, I have a list, but I think the biggest is I think I was so used to having breaks, winter break, summer break, and now it's like
No
you
breaks.
don't get those unless you actually like apply for days off, right? Like unless you're actually going for vacation. So I think, and around like
Do
Christmas
lawyers
time,
really have vacation?
not really because
Clients
mentally,
really don't care, though,
Yeah.
about your desire for a break. They've got problems.
No, I get that. And I think also when I do take time off, I'm always thinking about, oh my God, I'm gonna have so many emails when I go back. So let me just check a few of them now so that I don't have to go back and it's like a pile of 800 emails. And so when I started doing that, I see all these things coming in and I was like, well, I should send it to this person so they can take care of it. And I should do this. And so we never really get a vacation like we truly did when, we were students. But I guess it's what I've chosen.
What about the client interaction? Have you, did law school prepare you to actually deal with clients, or did you draw more from life experience?
I think I drew more from life experience. The only like interaction we would have in law school was our peers or, a professor. Throughout my internships, externships, what I learned was talking to clients is also a little bit natural. I worked a lot of customer service growing up. So those experiences really helped me. But I think the difference is in customer service, you're always trying to please the client, even if they're wrong. But in our situation now as attorneys, while we will advocate for our clients, we have to set their expectations. If they have a quote unquote bad case, we have to prepare them for the outcome. We
Good
can't
service doesn't mean they'll be pleased.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest
We
difference.
can't change the law.
Exactly.
It
Yes.
is what it is. Now been 5 years since you went into law school, correct?
Yes.
If
Yes.
there was one thing you could go back in time and tell that version of you, what would it be?
It would be the clerk for a judge. That's one thing I didn't do throughout law school. I was granted the opportunity, and at the time I couldn't take it. And I think about it pretty frequently because I really wish I got to see that side of the law, what goes on in the courtroom, how a judge arrives at their decision. I would have really benefited from that. And I think that's I don't like to have regrets, but it's still somewhere deep down. I really wish I had taken that opportunity.
I have a question, and we like asking this of our young attorneys. How do you find billing your time? Is it difficult? Is it not difficult? Have you had to have conversations with clients about the bills that they get? How's that gone?
Setting those expectations.
So I personally haven't had a client complain about my bill, at least not to me. I haven't heard anyone else say anything either, but it is challenging. It's not an exact science. It's an art. And I think you also have to realize that you're telling a story through the bill, because as much information as you can give and as you can, word it in a way that makes the client understand that you actually put in work into, the 2 hours that you spent. A lot of times if you're just strategizing, you have to justify that on paper, and you have to tell them why they should be paying you your hourly rate to sit there and think about something in your head. I think the other thing is, it's always important to let the client know that a retainer doesn't mean that that's what they're paying for the legal service. It means that they're going to be billed against it, and they will have to replenish their retainer. Another part of my practice is insurance defense. So billing for insurance companies is different. You have to be very specific. You have to use specific insurance codes, and insurance companies, a lot of times if your billing isn't clear, will reject the payment, and they have to, they're going to dispute it, and then you have to appeal, and then you have to explain why your time is justified.
I mean, the whole purpose of the name of this show is that you are literally selling your life in 6-minute increments.
Yes.
Part of what was, I think, misunderstood by some about the show in the first place is I thought it was only going to be 6 minutes. But you talk about writing the story. I mean, can you say what you found is the most difficult thing as you're billing these people is how to write that story and how much thought you're actually putting into it? Because I think we see that clients will often read that and still maybe question what was going on. But how much time are you actually spending crafting that story?
So initially, I think my first couple of months, it would take me like a good 30 minutes at the end of the day to sit there and actually do the entries, because I like to handwrite. So I'm old school like that. So I actually would sit there and handwrite it.
Old school, she said. Right.
And I would actually sit there and I would say, well, I can't just say I looked at these documents. I would have to say like reviewed and revised, right? And you have to come up with words. You're not lying, but you have to actually sell it to the client. Now it's gotten better because muscle memory, you're doing it every day. I have gotten better at it. Sometimes, you can look at entries for insurance companies, things that they have previously accepted. And so you can use those entries and then, place it going forward for all of your other bills. So initially it would take me like 30 minutes a day to sit there and say, okay, well, how do I justify this to a client so that they can actually pay for this?
Now, do you find that I don't know if it's easier per se, but less thought because the insurance companies have codes. You're sort of billing to the code versus if you have a private client, you're really writing up without a code something that they have to tolerate.
With insurance companies, it's like a double-edged sword. Yes, you have the codes, but a lot of times, even if you put in the wrong code, they'll reject the payment, even though everything else was correct. With clients that are not insurance companies, I think it's also very client specific. Some of them understand, and if they've dealt with lawyers before, they are expecting to receive a bill. If they've called me 3 times a week, they're going to get billed for it. And, they understand that. A lot of times I have had clients, especially on the estate administration side, estate litigation side, where they'll call me and they're always complaining about their sister or their brother or their stepfather. And I have to tell them, I would love to sit here and listen to you, but I have to tell you that you are going to be billed for this, right? And I'm not saying that I'm not going to listen to them. It's just, I don't want them to then be surprised once they get a bill and they realize that, they went on about their feelings for 40 minutes and then they get a bill. So it's
You're
always
an expensive psychologist.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
Well, we don't want to eat up too much more of your time. We really do appreciate that you're here today. But from a marketing perspective,
yes, please like, share, and subscribe. We would appreciate it.
Thank you very much for participating in
Thank you for having me.
6-minute increments.
Thank you.